Are you ready for some good news? When God asks you a question, it isn't for His education. It's for yours. We're in 1 Kings chapter 19 at verse 9. There he, Elijah, came to a cave and lodged in it, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" After defeating 450 prophets of Baal, Elijah was nourished by the supernatural food of God and traveled 40 days to Mount Horeb. And the Lord came to visit Elijah in the cave of Mount Horeb with a powerful prophetic word. But before the Lord gave Elijah the word, God had a question for the prophet. What are you doing here? And God knew the answer, but He still asked the question. Rabbinical educators have always valued the power of a good question. A Hebrew student once asked his teacher, "Rabbi, why do you always answer a question with a question?" The teacher responded, "Well, what's wrong with a question?" God's question to Elijah wasn't for God's information, it was for Elijah's destiny. During elementary school years, if my child asked, "Dad, what should I choose as the topic for my research paper?" my best response was, "Well, what captures your interests? What do you think is important?" God's question to Elijah was designed to put the prophet in touch with the aimlessness of his life, so he could hear God's good news of a future and a hope. He had accomplished great feats in God's name and traveled a great distance, but he hadn't become still enough to discern the word from the Lord about his destiny. And when God asked Elijah, "What are you doing?" Elijah, in introspection, had to admit, "I'm not really doing anything. I'm aimless." And by asking the prophet what he was doing here, God was helping Elijah see how far he was from the place of his real mission. Elijah wasn't supposed to be in Horeb at all. He had run hard and far, but he traveled far from his appointed destination. Elijah didn't discern the Lord's meaning at first. So after a great wind and shaking, God spoke again in a quiet whisper, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Then Elijah was ready to hear God. The Lord gave him instructions for the new phase of his ministry, and Elijah went. And when God asks you a question, He has a blessing in mind for you, and that's the gospel. That's today's daily devotional. For more like it, you can click right here, or better yet, subscribe to this channel, and I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.